Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. This is Watches Tonight. This evening, I reveal the coolest watches that I've seen this year at Watchbox. I answer your questions live. We remember one of our own, and of course, I share your viewer wrist shots right here tonight on Watches Tonight. So, remember to check out the redesigned homepage of thewatchbox.com. We are a business, not just a YouTube channel, and you can buy, trade, or sell watches on our site. We've got everything: small brand, independent, big groups, contemporary, vintage, your choice, always there, the ultimate in window shopping. No matter where you are, everywhere from Neuchatel to Singapore to Hong Kong, East Coast, Midwest, soon the West Coast, thewatchbox.com. Guys, let's take a quick look at who is in the box. We've got Jean H. We've got Bruno from Denmark. We've got Marcus T. from Germany, Edward Ledden from Sweden, John N. Renside, Matt Foster, Bob G., Jim Millett, Thomas Burnett, and yes, we will be recalling Blue Shirt Buddha, guys. That's on the program tonight. But first, a light diversion. Apparently, towns in West Virginia have found a unique system for limiting noxious vehicle emissions on side streets. Apparently, horse diapers are real. And they're a real big deal in West Virginia. Alternatives to coal, true, but you've got to feed them. That's where diapers come in. That turned out to be just the tip of the Google iceberg of weird animal accessories. For example, the kids will enjoy hours of Shawshank smiles with Bubbles the guinea pig as a recidivist rodent. And the fully accessorized dog simply can't live without a home-style knit Cthulhu mask. It's actually pretty good. I'm going to give that 7 out of 10. And then there's this pug, which reminds you to hate the game, not the player. But remember, this is a web show that's built around $100,000 man jewelry. So maybe at the end of the day, that prison pig and the poop patrol are laughing at us. All right, guys. Let's see who's in the box here. C. Flynn, we've got Arvin T, we've got Time Hill, Mark S, Turkisher Meister, we've got Justin J, Joe Tyson from Apex, North Carolina, Terry C, we got Miles Fisher from Los Angeles on the left coast of the US, we got Neo, and we've got Dylan L. All of our regulars, and a couple of new names, I have to say. Viewer wrist shots number 1, Mike T pegs the meter with his Vianney Halter Antiqua Perpetual calendar. That is one you do not see too often. John W. and his Wimbledon dial Rolex Datejust 41 roll with the new GMC Yukon Denali. Wachusiast and his Resonance Type 1 Slim Red make a rare combination. This is a 2021 model only. Simon H. takes to the road in his newly arrived Porsche, congratulations, with the tried and true Rolex GMT Master 2 Coke bezel. And Christopher H. showcases yet another rarity, a real one here, made from 2009 to 2013 and scarcely sold, the yellow gold Lange Datograph with a lovely sunrise/sunset photo. I'm not sure which one, but it wins the photography award for the night. All right, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com to see your pieces on my pixels. So in my line of work, watches from all eras converge on my desk, and the watches I experience in a year tend to be a mix of current models, recently discontinued models, and a couple of vintage pieces. Not a whole lot of vintage, but a heck of a lot of contemporary, most of them from the 21st century. The good news is I've got a lot of favorites to share, and there's something for everyone in tonight's show. Starting with the thumbnail, the Rolex Rainbow Daytona. This thing pegs the meter in every way. Outrageous, for better or worse, it is the ultimate cult watch, one rarely made and highly sought, and just recently, one of them crossed my desk. So this thing scorched my rods and cones while changing my opinion about this long controversial watch. A little bit of background, this thing came out at Baselworld in 2012 alongside a yellow gold counterpart. This is the white gold model, and the timepieces are simply studded in gems. You have a combination of handmade quality and Rolex brand recognition that is a little bit dissonant because you normally don't talk about handmade Rolex watches in the modern era. Rolex means massive mass production and consistency. Think Jack Daniels, not quite as artisanal as other small batch brews, but very consistent from bottle to bottle and country to country. This is that, but with an element that most Rolex watches do not have. It's scarce because of a shortage of materials and the people qualified to make them. So think sapphires. For real here. This is not the spinel you find on an Hublot. Hublot would use fake sapphires here or synthetic sapphires. Sometimes Hublot has been known to use glass, but all that you see there is genuine and naturally occurring, which means the gradient shift from jewel to jewel has to be checked by eye and by scanner as multiple natural stones are cut correctly to enter this bezel. It's not enough for the gem to be flawless. It's not enough for the gem to be the correct size. The gradient from gem to gem has to be enough of a percentage shift such that Rolex ultimately just plain gave up on making these. I should also mention, we have meteorite subregisters. Take a good look. That's my video. You can see the twinkle of the crystalline structure of the meteorite iron on the subregisters. This is called a Widmanstätten pattern. Basically, you acid etch the disk of meteorite and then you preserve it with a sort of varnish so it stops oxidizing at that point. That's how you get those lovely crystalline patterns. And if you look outboard, you can see this thing also features diamond paved lugs and shoulders around the crown. It's got everything. Meteorite, gem set dial, gem set bezel, gem set crown guards, gem set lugs, precious metal, and of course Rolex's customary 3-day power reserve, manufactured caliber 4130 inside, and no compromise in water resistance. It's still 100 meters. So this is a watch that retailed for about $89,000 when it was new in 2012. It had a short production run. In 2018, it was auctioning for about $212,000. Today, depending on who you ask, it appears to be roughly a $450,000 to $500,000 watch, meaning the escalation in price has not just been for the mainstream steel Rolex watches and the common gold and platinum pieces that we know so well. Far off the beaten path, you have watches like this, which depending on your perspective are either beautifully handmade and exquisite for their rarity, or vulgar for their loudness. And visually, this is about as loud as it gets. It turns your eyes into your ears. Let's see what you guys are saying right here. Watching watches, greetings from Germany. We got Design Atelier, Patrick Ward. We've got Daniel Waxman saying, hi Tim, looking classy today. Still waiting for an episode with your sunglasses on. You mean like actually on in the studio? As you could see, I upgraded from Oakleys to Gators, all American made. Multi-barrel steel hinges, all aluminum construction, polarized. It's as good as it gets, guys. And they gave me a huge veterans discount, so Gators sunglasses. Now that I've worn those, we have LB, hello from Singapore, waking up early. And waking up early for this, thank you so much. It is an honor. Whenever you guys get up early or stay up late or watch in a second or third language, I'm just honored that you would do that because this is a silly show and I'm a silly person and I'm glad that you take me seriously. All right, Les Artisans de Genève. If I thought that last Daytona was audacious, this one is next level. We've gone from the upper atmosphere to the surface of the moon here. This is truly a moonshot watch. If you've ever wondered what a Daytona by Vacheron would look like, this is pretty darn close. So these guys have become like the pre-merger version of AMG. So what AMG was in the 80s and the 90s with the race programs, the Hammers, the big bore customs, and the low volume bespoke cars before Mercedes owned them. That's what AMG was, and that's what Les Artisans de Genève is today. Rolex Daytona, so now this watch, we can go back to full screen, this watch started life as the pre-ceramic bezel 116520. So this started life as an all-steel watch. Big changes. First, they add their own ceramic bezel. This is not the Rolex one. This one is blue with unique index designs and different colors. You can also see that it has vintage style undersized chronograph pushers like you'd find on a 6263, a 6265, a vintage manual wind Daytona. Still 100 meters water resistant, no compromise, but a different aesthetic. Now all the finish is by hand to a level never previously seen on a Rolex in any era. Frosting, anglage, black polish, satination, all of it while retaining the underlying function of the Rolex caliber 4130. And take note, they've added their own display case back. The caliber is converted from an auto, and you can see that it does not look like a converted automatic, as most of the winding bridge structure has been removed by hand. They've even gone all the way and fitted their own special balance bridge in the upper left-hand corner. Take a look. They've added interior angles like you would find on the best Vacheron watches or even Laurent Ferrier. Again, all of the underlying technology and capability is still there. It's just made beautiful in a way that no Rolex ever has been. The open dial includes dial side skeletonization, and you can see even the mainspring barrel has been opened up, finished to the same standards as the movement. You can see the entire dial has been replaced by custom crafted and custom fitted components with an audacious combination of black, silver, white, blue, and orange. So, dial detail is just as good as the movement. You can see that from the top. The movement has been finished on both sides, so that you enjoy the quality of the finish even when the watch is on your wrist. How much? That's a great question. I have no idea. I saw this watch when we had it at what we call the piecing in phase, when it's just arrived, so I never actually found out what they're planning to ask for that watch, if they even still had it. I saw it about 2 months ago, and it burned itself into my memory. Some watches come and go. I can't tell you for a fact that every Edox I've ever encountered has stolen my heart, but this thing appeals to both the left and the right side of the brain, as well as every ventricle and aorta. This is a watch that appeals to the head as well as the heart, and then both sides of both. What a watch. Okay, jumping into the box, we've got Kaz O. Joining in from Florida, we've got JGC. Is this approach mandated as Rolex tries to move up market? I don't think Rolex is ever going to make anything like this. To be perfectly honest, it's not consistent with who they are. The gem setting is about as far as they go into the artisanal realm. I don't know how it is that Artisan de Genève get to keep putting the Rolex badge on the dial, because if you noticed on that last watch, the Rolex name, as well as superlative chronometer and all the rest copy-paste, was on the underside of the sapphire, which meant they reapplied the Rolex name and trademarks. Again, I don't understand how in the same city where Rolex is king, Les Artisans can get away with doing this, but boy, would I love to see Rolex buy them the way Mercedes bought AMG. Bring them in-house, keep the volume low and the quality high, and make them like the bespoke division of Rolex. That would be something they've never had, and something I would love to see. Steve R. Hi Tim, difficult decision for me. Laurent Ferrier Ecole Regulator or Laurent Ferrier Ice Blue Galet. I like the Ice Blue Galet. If you can get the Galet micro rotor, you're getting a much higher level of movement than you're getting on, for example, the Origine or the annual calendar. Now, between the regulators and the standard dials, I prefer the Ice Blue. I think it's a little bit more universal. We know from Rolex that Ice Blue dials on precious metal cases have staying power, and I think it's just an easier watch to read. Every time I look at a regulator, I double clutch. So just from my perspective, I think the Galet with the standard 3-hand dial in standard position is going to be the watch that you'll enjoy long term. But then again, only you know for sure. There's no real technical compromise there. I love all Laurent Ferrier watches. For me, it would be the Galet Square Boreal in stainless steel. Lume, steel, micro rotor movement, no compromise, and a quasi-sports watch. That would be my choice. AC saying, seems like a Rolex version of a Singer reimagined Porsche. Sort of, but the difference is clear because Singer does what it does with 964 Porsche made in the late 80s and early 90s, so those are vintage cars. What Les Artisans does is they take modern watches, and in some cases they make them look vintage, or they add vintage cues like beveled lugs on the Submariner or undersized chronograph pushers on the Daytona. So it's not a perfect match for what Singer does, though the quality and the detail definitely is a good comparison. We've got Alfredo D. I wonder if AG would modify Daytonas. Were they not selling at 3 times retail? Love that watch though. I don't think, no, I don't think it's dependent on what a stock Daytona sells for. I think they're able to justify the price they ask for those watches because they're just that good and their attention to detail is that high. Plus, as you probably noted from the array of celebrities and race drivers who've commissioned pieces with them, they have a high-end clientele that doesn't bat an eye about paying $100,000, $200,000, $250,000 for a modified Rolex. And I think that's regardless of what people are paying for that watch as a used timepiece. Remember, even at a markup on the aftermarket, a standard steel Daytona is like $40,000 to $45,000. So when Les Artisans is charging more than 5 times that, I think it's an entirely different market and an entirely different type of buyer. We got a question from Daniel Hill saying, nice clock behind you. Yep. That's my Nixie clock. It came to me from Dalibor Farny, who makes those things in the Czech Republic, handcrafted by an engineer who only makes those things all day long. That is the Puri 6 model, and he sent that to me. And then off to the other side, you can see my little Corvette. That's my C5 Corvette. That's as close as I could get to the model and the year and the color in 1/18 scale. We got Sebastian S. joining from Germany. And then we've got Patrick Ward asking, Tim, what is the email address for wrist shots? It is mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com. Okay, finally, something a little bit more bedrock as Rolex goes. I loved the Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41 green dial. Now, it's very simple. It's a bigger Oyster Perpetual with a green lacquered dial. Not a whole lot about this makes it as exceptional as the watches that have preceded it. But the emotional appeal to me, as I've been waiting my entire life for green dial Rolex watches for men, this is awesome. Now, previously we had a white gold option with the Date 40, but this is more accessible in steel, more, I would say, durable, as it's not a precious metal, and it's elemental, super slim, even compared to the Date. This watch is big, broad, handsome, happy, upbeat, charming, and at $5,900, if you can get it new, you're paying a reasonable price for a 5-year warranty, a 3-day power reserve, a certification that goes beyond chronometers, and a dial that revives the best of the 1970s Rolex Stella style dials. This is a very cool watch. Yes, they make other colors. There's the Tiffany turquoise, which is an unofficial Tiffany turquoise. There is, of course, coral red, and yes, there is the yellow if you want to really peg the meter in terms of brightness. But this is the one that speaks to me. Reference 124300, the first ever 41mm Oyster Perpetual, and it's a watch you can wear all the time. It's a dress watch, it's a sports watch. Despite its size, it wears pretty well on a small wrist, otherwise I wouldn't even be interested. This is a real breakthrough piece, and it's a new 41mm class of three-hand Rolex. So it's a blue chip piece, make no mistake. Any of the new colors, you're going to pay a big markup over $5,900, which is the MSRP. That said, compared to 40 grand for a Daytona, if you're just resolved to get a cool modern Rolex, I almost feel like this is a better buy than, say, a green sub or a steel Daytona. Even as marked up as it is relative to its retail price, I think it looks and feels that price when it's in the hand. It feels the aftermarket price. Again, a modern take on the 70s Stella dial, and probably the coolest Rolex watch released since, I'm going to go with the Milgauss Z Blue. That was the last time Rolex really surprised us with dial colors. All right, let's see what's going on in the box. We got Miles Fisher. Hey Tim, I'm flying to Dubai on Friday. What's the best way to find you? Sadly, I leave the day before Dubai Watch Week. Well, if you want to find Watchbox, we're at the DIFC, the Dubai International Financial Center. You'll probably get to see the setup of the show. It won't be up yet, but you'll see some of the booths going up, and Watchbox will be open for business if you want to stop by. You can see a lot of the folks that you've seen here, like Sequan, for example, who's full-time with our UAE-based crew. What else is going on right here? We've got Time Hill saying Gallet all the way, and then we've also got Marcin R. Please tell me, what do you think about, I guess you mean Lange Datograph? I love them. The best finished watches in the world. And you have substantial free reign to go custom with them. I think those are the best looking and best finished watches made in Germany, rivaled only, possibly only by Moritz Grossmann, which I think doesn't photograph well, but when you see them in person, you're convinced of the quality of their finish, and it's better than Lange and comparable to Lange Datograph. What else is going on right here? Justin D saying, big fan of IWC this year with the Big Pilot 43 Blue on a bracelet. Yeah, you know, it's a more wearable Big Pilot. I guess it's a medium Pilot, maybe, but it's also 100 meters water resistant, which is a new thing on the Pilot's watches this year, and something I think is overdue, as basically everyone who wears an IWC Big Pilot's watch thinks of it as a hardcore sports watch and plans to swim with it. Now that a bracelet's available, they practically had to. All right, we've got Frederick D, Denmark in the house. We've got at least 2 people watching from Denmark. So, on a more somber note, I want to remember a viewer of ours and a good friend from the online watch community, Bruce Lionel, who used the online handle Blue Shirt Buddha, passed away last week following a battle with brain cancer. I met Bruce, as you can see right there, at Watch Time New York in 2019. He was approachable, thoughtful, upbeat, and unpretentious. He was a real joy to talk to, and he was omnipresent. Live in this chat every opportunity, even well into his treatment phase. You would see him on Facebook, including the Talking Time with Tim Mosso Facebook group, and he brought a lot to our community. Again, sadly, we've lost him, But I miss his sincerity, his enthusiasm, the joy he brought to the hobby, and that's something all of us can kind of see as a lesson to take to heart and adopt going forward in the watch world. Spare a thought for Bruce and his family and his friends, and if you want to write a little nod to Bruce in the comments below this video, I'm sure his family would appreciate that. Godspeed, Bruce. He was a good man, and he was one of us. Speaking of the greater watch community too, a little note about things happening off camera. My good friend and colleague at Watchbox, Josh Thanos, has revived his Trading Desk show, which was formerly on Watchbox Studios, and it's now a podcast. And the new podcasts go live every Tuesday morning, so I'm actually his guest on the next one, which goes live tomorrow, and you can find it where all popular podcasts are found. That's the Trading Desk with Josh Thanos, and he often has Jason Main, his old partner, his sparring partner from the Trading Desk show, as a guest and a co-host. So definitely check out the Trading Desk as a podcast tomorrow morning. Another thing, this is going to be my last show until after Dubai Watch Week. And I just want to let you know that I will resume in December, and if you've noticed that my publication schedule hasn't been the same on Watchbox Reviews, fewer videos and no inventory shows where I would have like a smorgasbord, all that goes back to normal after Dubai, along with my regular Monday appearances here. But next Monday and the Monday after, I will either be in Dubai or in transit back to the United States. So this is our last rodeo for a little bit. Make no mistake though, I will be back, don't panic, it's just a matter of me being out of the office. There will be other Watchbox Studios features and on Watchbox Reviews, reviews of the watches present at Dubai Watch Week. All right, so continuing, the coolest watches I have seen this year, and by the way, I see all of the notes you guys are posting in the chat, and I really appreciate that. I certainly know that if Bruce's family and friends were to read through the chat tonight, they would be very happy to see how many lives he touched. So, watches are the reason we're all here, and the coolest watches that have come to me this year have included Rolex, yes, but also one of my traditional favorite brands. From Glashütte, even by their high standards, the Lange Datograph Perpetual Tourbillon, a 2019 100-piece limited edition in white gold, was an absolute knockout. This dial is actually made of solid rose gold. You look at it and it's a rose gold dial that is salmon in color. Most brands will just galvanize their dials. Every Lange dial is made of sterling silver except the ones that are rose gold or enameled. And you can see this is a solid medallion of gold, and there's a lot to love. So 41.5 millimeters, it's not as big as it looks, but it is heavy. You're getting a lot for your money. If you look at that dial, you can see how much you're getting. You're getting an instantaneous change perpetual calendar. You're getting a flyback chronograph. You're getting a quick set mechanism that lets you set the whole calendar with a single push of the reset trigger. And you're getting a solid white gold moon phase disc, lume on a dress watch, and a tiny power reserve indicator. If you look up at approximately 9 to 10 o'clock, this thing has it all. Caliber L9522 is the stuff of dreams, not just in terms of the finish, which is world class, but in terms of the detail and the features. So you're getting a tourbillon carriage, if you look at the bottom, with a diamond capstone, and unlike the rubies here, which are synthetic, the diamond capstone is real. The balance incorporates a free-sprung architecture for precise adjustment, an overcoil hairspring for concentric breathing in any position, and it is a hacking seconds tourbillon, one of the few ever made. You can see that the movement includes silver, gold, blue, violet tones, all of the above in steel and German silver, and that part of the movement has even been freehand engraved. This thing is an absolute monster, and it is magic on your wrist. Now, they cost over $300,000 new, and they're holding their value fairly well when they come to market, which means this is a rare Lange watch not called Odysseus that actually competes in the pre-owned marketplace with more heralded models from more heralded brands. And if you ask me, while it takes the watch out of my reach, the fact that these are retaining their value as esoteric, complicated precious metal dress watches actually speaks to the maturation and the evolution of the collector. This actually shows pretty good taste, as the guy who buys this could otherwise have bought a steel Nautilus several times over. I'm glad he didn't. Although, who knows, maybe there's a world where a guy has both in his watch box. See what you guys are saying in the box right here. Many tributes to Blue Shirt Buddha. Thomas Burnett saying $300,000, wow. And it's a rare watch where you look at it, you hold it in your hand, and you say, yeah, that actually looks its price. And then we got Mark S. Of course, it's not for everyone. He says, I'm not a salmon dial fan. That's okay, Mark, because in 2016, the platinum version of that watch had a black dial. So they've got something for everyone in Glasuta. Not making a lot of watches, absolutely, but many different variants. And then we have Neo saying, buy two Urwerk instead. That's a fact. Urwerk is out there, and the early Urwerk models are very collectible. Buy them while they're still cheap. So here's a brand we may never have discussed on this show in the past, DeWitt. And that is the 2015 28-piece limited edition DeWitt Academia Mathematical. Now, there's nothing particularly mathematical about this watch, so if you're not a mathlete, don't recoil. This watch, 42.5 millimeters in rose gold, is a Zeitwerk-style full jumping digital time display, hours, tens of minutes, and minutes. Now, a lot of folks don't even know this brand exists, so a quick refresher. Jerome DeWitt is a watchmaker who was initially partners with Cedric Joner back in the late 90s and early 2000s, and there was a bit of a schism and a split and a falling out between them in 2003, and DeWitt wound up in possession of Cedric Joner's company, and that company became DeWitt as we know it today. Now, somewhat comically, because I think it's a gimmick, Jerome DeWitt claims relation to just about every royal family in the history of Europe, but the one he really wants you to remember is Napoleon Bonaparte, and he's claimed that when you buy a DeWitt watch, you're buying a Napoleon watch. The good news, though, is that they succeed on their own merits, and while many of them feature ETA-based calibers and are otherwise unremarkable, this, which had a retail price of almost $200,000 back in 2015, is the real thing. The manufacturer automatic base caliber has a handsome architecture, and as you can see, some sharp interior angles that speak to real dedication in the finishing of the bridges. It's a good-looking movement. This watch, of course, retailing for almost 200 grand, is a great buy today, as you can pick this up for about $85,000 in today's market. Literally no one is after these, but consider what you would pay for something like an F. Pigeon Vagabondage 2, which has the same type of digital jumping hours, tens of minutes, and minutes, and you realize what a good value this is. The competing watches, options like the Vagabondage 2 and the Zeitwerk, are not automatic winding, which makes this a surprisingly viable everyday wear. Now, it has an idiosyncratic style, but it's beautifully detailed, from the colonnade case to the satinated raised relieved lugs with the grained interiors. There's a lot to love all over this watch, front, back, and profile, and it will be unlike anything else you encounter. And again, you don't have to be a mathletics expert to love this watch. It's super easy to read, and it's a lot of fun when you've got a watch that other people don't know about, because then you get to explain it and tell the tale, and that's what the watch hobby is all about. Mark S. asking, Tim, what happened to your podcast and blog articles on your website? The guy who maintains my website got married and forgot to post all the stuff I was sending to him. So there should be a bunch of new podcasts and blogs on my website, Toot Sweet, because I reminded him he's got a backlog and the honeymoon's over, if you know what I mean. All right, we've got Phil D., faithful follower, but first time on live from Ottawa, Canada. From the Great White North, I like that. Pilot Style 123 Space 4 saying, looks like a code 1159 with an exotic dial. And then Justin D., is there any love for the Blancpain Bathyscaphe complete calendar with moon phase? Yes, but it's an acquired taste. Not everyone believes that a 50 fathoms should have a complication other than a date. And when you're dealing with the Bathyscaphe chronographs, the triple calendar, the annual calendar, there's going to be a lot of, I would say, traditionalists and purists who reject the notion that a 50 fathoms could be that a 50 fathoms could be essentially the equivalent of something like a Breguet Marine with many high horology complications. A lot of purists who don't go Rolex go Blancpain, and they don't love the idea of calendars on a 50 fathoms. But I do. A luxury watch is a luxury watch, and let's face it, if we all wanted to be professional divers, we'd be using computers, not mechanical watches, to time our dives. Brick Lane saying, Breguet has soft retail. That is a fact. I think there's some conversations going in here that I might have missed. We got Steve R. Tim, any mods planned for the C5? No. I plan to keep it dead stock. There are a lot of modded C5s in the world, and fewer in good original condition. What I do plan to do is get some prior curb damage on the wheels repaired to professional spec, because I bought the car and it had some curb damage and I hate that. I'm also going to make sure that all the little parts that show wear are periodically going to get updated and replaced, taking it closer and closer to like NCRS standard, because a C5 is not a collectible car and no one's going to be taking one through a Bloomington Gold judging run, but someday they will, and I want to have the car that makes it. So I'm just going to be making it closer and closer to stock and closer to original Bowling Green factory condition. That's what I value in my collectible cars. And eventually I will have a true vintage car alongside it, like something from the 50s. I love my big 50s cruisers, and I've got a discussion this Thursday with a friend about starting a car podcast. This, if it happened, would be a big deal because both of us have a lot of online presence. I can't say yet that it's agreed, but we're moving in that direction. So stay tuned. The Tim Mosso Car Podcast is coming. All right, viewer wrist chats number 3. I asked, you answered, starting with Richard C. of South Florida, a longtime friend out on the beach, giving us a Tudor Pelagos LXD sighting. This is the new Marine Nationale, not just a tribute to the old Marine Nationale watches, but an actual service issue mechanical watch in the modern era. Jeff M. keeps the Tudor train rolling with his Black Bay 58 and Audi A5, a man after my own heart. I love my Americans, but I am a huge Audi nerd, and I've owned many and spent way too much money maintaining them, but it was a labor of love. We've got Tom B. taking a vibrant shot of his Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean 600-meter creamsicle. That is the Planet Ocean to own if you're not going 39.5 and black ceramic. We've got David W. and his Nomos Club automatic date hitting the road in his Mini Countryman All 4. Jimmy Y. is up to the minute with the new Pelagos FXD, our second such sighting of the night. I guess it's come home to Tudor Plaza, and I thought they were from Geneva. I learn something new every day. Eric S. impresses with his family heirloom Rolex Date in Coral Gables, Florida, another one of our friends from South Florida, where Watch You Want used to be based. I still miss it. Abdul R., in the cold of the German fall, captures the mood with his Rolex Explorer 2 on a lovely integrated rubber strap. Guys, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com. Continuing with the coolest watches that I have seen this year, the de Bethune DBD, also known as the DB Digital. This is a watch that came out in 2006. I love my weird time displays, and this is the weirdest. So, it came out in 2006, and the inline calendar system predated this year's Patek 5236P by 15 years, so a decade and a half. If you thought the inline calendar was a Patek invention, or even a Roger Dubuis invention, think again. Not only is this thing an inline calendar, but it was designed as a wristwatch interpretation of a vintage ladies' pendant watch, and it included scrolling minutes and a jump hour at the bottom. Not everyone likes this watch, but I do. The price of this watch used has more than doubled in the last 5 years, which means there's at least some people out there who think as I do. Now, auction prices on these have stiffened to the point that I probably missed my opportunity to own one. But I've also become convinced that this is my favorite de Bethune model, and if you take a look, maybe we can go full screen right there, this is a watch that gives you a lot of fun on both sides. It's not a reverso, but it has some of those qualities. Inline calendar, scrolling minutes, jump hour, bullhead winder, hinge lugs, Côte de Genève, or Côte de Bethune as they call them, on the dial side, and a nickel anthracite coating. They made it in rose gold, they made it in white gold, and it's 42.6 millimeters in diameter, if you want to consider that, but it's only 46 millimeters from lug to lug, which means it wears super compact. It has a 5-day power reserve, all of the de Bethune trickery inside technologically, and a moon phase display on the back. Remember, I told you it was double-sided, with a giant fired blue titanium cosmos containing a couple of different constellations, and the moon phase is actually a solid sphere of blued steel and white palladium. This watch is awesome. Yes, It's only for a few, but since the total population of these numbers in the dozens, not the hundreds, only a few will ever need to raise their hands. And I should mention, if you want to wear it backwards, that moon phase won't have to be adjusted for another 1,112 years from the time it is set. 200 grand? Probably. That's roughly what it would take to get into one of these days, and that's the rose gold model. White gold is always a little bit more desirable, and I think one of those could reach as high as $250,000. How times have changed at de Bethune. We have Terry C. saying that de Bethune looks like a train engine. Chris L. Tim, you like that DB over the kind of 2? That's my Grail DB. Yeah, I do. I love the DBD. I adore it. I love its time display. I love the way it wears, compact. I love the fact that it's rare, and I love the fact that everyone else doesn't love it. It's not a watch that's easy to love. You either fall head over heels for it, or you'll never understand it. We have Mark from New Jersey. Man, Tim, some ugly and expensive watches tonight. Would you prefer we just talk endlessly about Rolex? Because we can do that. Do you want to talk about the 5711 again? Richard Mille? The Chronomètre Bleu? We can do that. We can just do like collection reviews of people who own nothing but Rolex. And like beat Seiko until it's a dead horse, and then beat the dead horse until it's pate, and then beat the pate into burgers and then cook it. I try to do different stuff, guys. I try to go off the beaten path. And tonight with Schwarz Etienne and the Roma Synergy, we have that. So the Roma Synergy is based on the standard Roma model, but whereas the standard Roma is 42 millimeters, this one's 39, and it's got a special trick up its sleeve. This is the most affordable path to carry Voudelainen ownership. This is an exclusive collaboration that features custom dials by Comblamine Cadran, which is the dial company owned by Voudelainen that makes his dials as well as dials for Grunefeld and many others. So the dial is made of solid sterling silver with real guilloche. You can see it's got a combination of soleil, fish scale, and then vague or wave style, all on one dial. This is done by Voudelainen, and it will also be available in gray with 100 pieces of each, the gray and the blue to be offered. The blazing ASC 200 micro rotor movements, first of all, are technical masterpieces, but aesthetically, they feature fully finished bridges, plates, and winding rotor. Note the winding rotor features a raised ridge as well as satinated center, and the ratchet wheel features solarization. All of that with real rose lathe guilloche on the movement, not just on the dial, and mirrored bevels with black polished screws. Atelier Voudelainen does the finishing on the movement too. All of this, and you're getting a genuinely impressive movement. Micro rotor auto, 84 hours of power reserve, hacking, something you still don't find on a lot of high horology dress watches, and Schwarz Etienne is a real manufacturer making the tough parts, the escapement, the balance, and the hairspring. This is a $30,000 watch that's more interesting, at least to me, than a $100,000 FP Journe. This or a Chronomètre Bleu? This for me. This or a Chronomètre Souverain? This, please. This is a very competitive offering that I might even consider alongside something like a Grunefeld or even a full-blooded Carré Voudelainen Van Wheat. Remember, this thing is automatic. Yes, there's a little bit of Philippe Dufour's simplicity in that dial design, but the fact is the pedigree is unimpeachable. This is a genuinely cool way to get into independent high horology for 30 grand, and this watch is still flying below the radar. It's not priced on the aftermarket like a Voudelainen yet. Again, stainless steel, so you're getting the purist's choice. Let's see what's going on in the box right here. Time Hill is saying he really does like that de Bethune, so it's not just me. What else is going on? Adam Crossfire saying 30,000, that's a bargain for what it is. We've got Xavier saying, I feel like taking a deep dive into that dial. Sheesh, that blue is breathtaking. We got Madman saying, I love that, especially in the gray. And then we've got Dennis L saying, the finishing on that movement is sublime. And then we've got Chris L saying, I love the Schwarz Etienne. Almost pulled the trigger on one, but I blinked. Price was too high, in my opinion, compared with what else I could get for that. Mistake? Question mark. Well, can you get another Voudelainen for 30 grand? That would be my comparison. I wouldn't be comparing this with, like, you know, Frédéric Constant or an entry-level Vacheron patrimony or traditionnel or some sort of like 5196. Like, I think this is more interesting than all of those. I think this is a really compelling watch, and you'll probably never see another one. Even another Schwarz Etienne Roma. It's not going to be the same size, it's not going to be the same finish, and they're going to be far more of the standard SE watches. Even those are rare, but the Voudelainen model is going to be a scarcity. I think it's as impressive as a lot of stuff that costs way more money. It's not quite at the level of Laurent Ferrier, though on the wrist it's just as impressive and genuinely compelling. Give it another look, because I think someday these will be highly collectible. I don't think you'll ever lose money on that watch. Whereas if you go out and you buy, say, a Vacheron or a Breguet or a Blancpain dress watch, I think, yeah, you probably will lose a little bit. Okay, Abdul saying the dial work and the movement finishing is worth the money. And then we've got Butik One joining in from Poland a little bit late. We appreciate you, Mikhail. I like to see you in there. I'm sorry you're late, but the good news is it's all recorded. So if you're watching this late and you missed the beginning, you can go back and watch it again. We got Karate Chop saying 30K, isn't that a Vacheron Overseas? Yeah, but that's a sports watch, and these two are not the same. The Vacheron Overseas with its automatic movements is not finished like that Voudelainen executed Schwarz Etienne. And then finally, we've got Steve R saying the Synergy is definitely special on the wrist. I've tried it, and I have to say, all things considered, it's an awesome option because it's the way a dress watch should be, 39 millimeters. It's the perfect size, it's the perfect thickness, and in steel, you're not as self-conscious about the way it's going to scratch and scuff under the cuff. What else is going on? We have a question about whether I'm going to get the wheels of my C5 Corvette tegamented. I don't think Zinn would do that. I'm still struggling to get them to make the Talking Time with Tim Mosso Facebook group watch, so I doubt they would honor my request to harden an entire set of wheels. After all, it is an American car, and I'm willing to bet that Zinn would only consider something made in the fatherland. All right, we got some wrist shots 4, starting with Saul C. Recently collected his first Zinn, and it is the Pilot's Chronograph Model 144. Looking good. I would love to know the car. Definitely fill me in, send me another shot with the watches and wheels so I can post them both up. Doug B and his Rolex Yachtmaster in steel and platinum visits the Grand Canyon. And I did not know there was a falls at the Grand Canyon. I learn something new every day. Matthew D and his Grand Seiko Spring Drive hit the links on a fine day, looking good, and a nice fit. That's a perfect proportion of elegant watch to right-sized wrist. We've got Tobias L and his IWC Aquatimer chronograph enjoying Kata Beach in Phuket, Thailand, looking good. And we've got Mansour A from Saudi Arabia taking us home with his splendid Cartier Santos Dumont limited edition. Guys, take note, I am out of the office next Monday and the Monday after, so this is our last show until December. I'm going to miss you guys, but we're never going to be far apart because on Watchbox Studios and Watchbox Reviews, I will be continuously posting video updates and hands-on reviews with interviews to match from Dubai Watch Week. So let me know underneath what you would like to see from Dubai Watch Week, because I'm going to be there, Sean's going to be there, our whole crew is going to be set up at the DIFC. If you can make the trip from Asia or Europe, it's a hop, skip, and a jump to meet our entire Watchbox crew and all of the coolest independent and boutique level watch manufacturers that are going to be there for the 50th anniversary of the UAE. This Dubai Watch Week will be a blockbuster, and I will be there with the hands-on. Until then, time out, Tim out. Thanks for logging on.